Hello everyone. Welcome back. It's another episode of Professor Drew's Lab. We're going to tackle a couple questions today, and then we're going to discuss a little bit about the hiatus, because a lot of you have some questions about it, and we've been a little vague. So we're just going to let you know how things are going and where we're at, and then we're going to design the Honedge line. We're going to do that. So let's get right down into it. You might hear some puppy-related noises in the background. It is what it is. He's a cute little dude, but he's a little feisty right now. So we're just gonna try to knock these out nice and easy. So let's get things started. Fire of Hades would like to know, will the fire source stone slowly start to turn the area around it into Xantha, basically, and how will that affect the environment? It's pretty likely that the Tots or someone near them will journey around that area in the future. So we'll probably see it firsthand, but yes, absolutely. The stones do fundamentally alter the environment and the wildlife in the area for as long as they are present in that area. So we'll probably see a little bit more of that in future sessions. Alright, moving on down the line. Bookworm's got a couple questions. Is the Prime Mind like Ganon? There was the original Firstborn that became the source of the Prime Mind, and the following Prime Minds were incarnations and hosts, i.e. they become a version of the Prime Mind or some such. In a way, I suppose. I have not played the most recent Legend of Zelda games. It's been a hot minute. Maybe a better part of about a decade since I've played a Legend of Zelda game, but from my limited understanding of how that's working these days, I would imagine they're fairly similar. An important thing to remember is that different timelines. So the Firstborn and the Prime Mind really are just me teasing the players with like the potential of what a mega evolved Pokemon could pull off. And what would happen if an evil creature got their hands on a Source Stone. Moving on down. Was Nutri Gym just a bunch of holograms, hypnosis, or spooky ghost/psychic shenanigans? Maybe a mixture. Who was the gym leader? The first guy the Tots met, the creepy ghost lady, or someone else? Nutri's gym leader is Deirdre, aka creepy ghost lady. The gym itself is entirely fueled by the challenger's fear. So the stronger the challenger's will, the more normal the challenge would be. So the normal guy that Bentley and CJ bumped into was there to determine if they were really going to challenge the gym and kind of get a read on them before Deirdre really got started. So an easy way to think about it is Deirdre does not operate the gym alone. She does have helpers, but nothing in there is what it seemed to be. But I won't say how or why they did what they did, because I don't want to, Deirdre never reveals her secrets. Much like a good magician. Matthew Turner wants to know, I might be remembering this wrong, but in the Liquid Source Stone, previously known as Elemental Goop Encounter, since there were different kinds of goop, does that mean that Team Rocket has had access to at least pieces of many different Source Stones? Additionally, how foolish or dangerous would it be to mix multiple flavors of Liquid Source Stone together? Alright, he got out, so now he's back with me. Alright, we were talking about Liquid Source Stone goop. So I won't say too much about the goop or how it was made or sort of how it functions, but what I will let you guys know, just in case it got sort of lost in the editing, and it may well have, is the goop is an artificial recreation of Source Stones, or a similar boosting and altering power. But I do forever now love referring to them as flavors, but mixing them would be exceptionally dangerous. As we saw in that encounter, even adding one extra typing was incredibly dangerous for the host. So adding multiple would probably be a very bad idea, especially if it pushed you into like a third typing. So let's roll on down. Skeleton Puke has a few questions. We're gonna start with one, and then we're gonna get into talking about this. Yes, hello. I know they're very happy to see you. Skeleton Puke would like to know, do you have any scrapped variant or Fakemon concepts that you thought of but have never used? No, not really. We've talked about this a couple times. I tend to make encounters piecemeal, and not really like batch prepare a bunch of variants or anything. And full disclosure, a lot of the variants have kind of cropped up in the moment because it felt like it would make sense for something like that to be there. A prime example being the Scarab Spinnerax and the Victory Bell that was out in the desert being like a Sarlacc pit. Those were two things that I thought would be neat, so I tested the waters with the players just to see how they felt about it. As for like fake mons, I've snuck in a few here and there. Dennis, the male Chansey, the Mancy, if you will. Titania is a Skarmite. It's a little fake mon. I sneak them in here and there, but the focus of the story for me has always been on the Tots. So I try not to outshine them with like cool variant things that they couldn't interact with in a meaningful way. So like fake mon owned by a trainer, I try not to do as much as I can without good reason for it. All right. He's back. He's back again. He keeps breaking out of containment. Alright. So let's give this an attempt here. Okay. Moving on from Skeleton Puke's first question, we're going to tie in the Stop Short and innumerable others of you on a lot of these videos and a few from beforehand. Some variation on how does the hiatus work, why a hiatus then and there, why leave it on a cliffhanger, what's the plan for bringing it back? Let's discuss the hiatus. So, the Tater Tots game has just breached 2 months without an upload. It's a long time. It's not as long as we thought it would go, but it's looking like it's going to be a few more weeks. So let's talk about it. So the Tater Tots game has so far gone about 2 months without an upload. I think we just passed the 2-month mark. We have filmed several sessions and several segments of sessions in that time. But full disclosure, we didn't film from about mid-December until April. So we went a long time without filming anything. And those of you in the know will understand that we used to have a 15-ish session backlog between what was live and what we had. So that's why so far the hiatus has only felt like 2 months, even though for us it's been, you know, it was closer to 5. So we have started filming again, but we need to build up that backlog of extra sessions before we start posting, because otherwise we run the risk of, you know, we film 3 or 4, we edit them, we start putting them up, and then we miss a week. And then say someone's out of town and we miss another week. Now suddenly we only have a 2-week backlog. And then things become a little bit more tense for scheduling, and we have to start cramming things in. And the one thing we don't want is to have anything feel rushed, or also us have to take another break. Because if we get 2 out and then we need a week off, we might as well have just waited an extra week before coming back on. So we're trying to get all the waiting out in one time. But here's a prime example for you guys, a little behind the scenes, just again, to keep you guys in the loop, because I know the one thing everybody wants is the same thing we all want, is for the Tater Tots game to just come back full swing, full force. So we had planned to film 2 sessions this weekend, but your boy landed himself some crazy stomach bug, so we didn't get to do anything. So we missed out on 2 full days of filming that were scheduled that we now have to push to next week, and we might not be able to do them both next week, which means potentially this one weekend has now snowballed into 2 additional weeks before we can even keep going from where we were scheduled to be. So this is why the hiatus is longer than we would like, but why it's necessary. Because if we had already started posting, you know, if we started posting like last week, we have filmed, I'll just be real with you guys, we've filmed 3 full sessions so far. We're trying to do some really fun stuff for session 100, and that's taking a lot of days and a lot of times, because we want to just make that as cool as we can. So let's roll this back a little bit. Filming a session isn't as easy as having it prepped and everybody's ready. So for those of you that know, our studio is currently located in the home of 2 of our players. Those 2 players had a baby in December. So that's why the hiatus was necessary and was going to happen regardless. Is we're in a very disease-cautious world, and you gotta be like 10 times more cautious when a baby's involved. And it's very difficult to, justify to yourself or anybody ever that two new parents need to make time in their day to either play D&D or let someone and a bunch of their friends show up at their house and play and film D&D. It's a very disruptive aspect to add on to their lives, which are already kind of like in this crazy state of adjustment. So they're doing a great job. They're doing awesome. We're very proud of them. But it does mean we can't film regularly. We have about 1 day a week where everybody is free at the same time, and we can assist in watching the baby and make sure everything is cool and that we're all good. It means chopping our film sessions to be shorter and more compact. We have a hard end time. So anything that we don't get filmed, if we don't finish a session, we gotta pick up the next week. When you do stuff like that and then somebody gets sick, you gotta wait 2 weeks just to finish what you started so that you can start the next thing. So it's taking multiple film sessions just to get through a session. So again, I say this with all the love and respect to you guys, but we do appreciate your patience in this because there's only so much we can really do about it, at least for now. We've got 1 day a week to film. We've got a 6-hour block in which to film. We used to be very open-ended. We would film as long as it took. But it's a big ask of, 5 adults that already work 40 plus hours a week to come ride in my crazy carnival ride of D&D. So I can't hold it against them for not being willing and able to exhaust themselves further to make another film session work. So all of that to say, we are filming. What are the plans to bring the game back? My goal is to have 5 sessions fully done and edited before we premiere the next one. So we currently have 3 filmed. I've got 1 and a bit edited. So that way you guys can know where we're at with that. Sessions take a long time to edit. We're trying to do a lot of cool stuff. But the important thing for you guys to remember is the hiatus is not like a vacation for everybody. We've put a ton of effort and a ton of time and energy and everything else, and love and care into what's coming for the game. We want it to be awesome. We don't want it to seem like we just went away and came back and like, okay, here's a session like normal. We're taking all that time to make the game better, to overhaul a couple systems, add some new rules functions, determine where we want to go. So I've had a lot of conversations with the players of what their goals are for their characters. Where do they see themselves in, a year in-game time? Not in real time, but what does the sunset of that campaign look like? So we've had those conversations. We want to see where we're headed. And a lot of that comes down to the players have a lot of story left to tell. So we've gotten down to business of, okay, how can we use this time, our downtime, to reflect what the Tots could be working on for theirs? And we'll cover what that looks like and how that's gonna look in the future, because I don't want to give away anything that's happened, and so I'm not going to. But I will continue to do these lab videos. I will continue to keep you guys in the loop, as I have been, but I appreciate your guys' patience. I know none of these comments are meant with malice or anything, but that way you guys can know and I have somewhere to redirect everybody when they keep asking. I can send them right here in this video. Hopefully that kind of explains the situation a little better. We've been speaking very veiled, and I've been trying to kind of dance around it, but I think the easiest way for you guys to understand, there's a new baby. The new baby lives where the studio is. So getting everybody to the studio is no longer as simple as, hey, we're all free on Saturday. It's now, okay, but is the baby doing okay? Do we need to postpone? Is he sleeping? Is anything going on? So, it's a little bit of a juggling game. But enough real talk. Let's roll it back a little bit. I have built for you a Honedge, a Doublade, and an Aegislash. And I tried something different for this because I didn't already have them made for how they would work in a Tater Tots game. So I threw something together. Slapshot. So I'm just kind of curious what your guys' thoughts are on this. And I'm gonna breeze through Honedge and Doublade because Aegislash is where the real meat of this is. Honedge and Doublade are very similar. So, Honedge, Steel Ghost, very easy, has no guard. I've covered 1,000,001 times how I would handle no guard. I treat it like the Barbarian's Reckless attacks. I feel like having something that always hits and is always hit is poor design for a D&D game because there are a lot of abilities that would just kill you. And while that may be fun for you, that's not the kind of high stakes, highfalutincy that I really go for in my design. So I just let them do, you can make all your attacks at advantage. If you do, you leave yourself open. All attacks made at you are at advantage. Now, a big part of that is that Honedge at a first level with the new stat blocks would have 7 hit points and an AC of 11. So you're already probably going to be hit all the time, and you're probably going to be killed in 1 or 2 shots at most. So you might as well roll at advantage and try to kill your opponent before they get a chance to hit you. I would give them Slash, slight bonus to hit, moderate amount of slashing damage. If you critically hit, roll an additional die of damage, plain and simple. Shadow Sneak, same bonus to hit, a little bit extra ghost damage. I'd put it at a 2d4, similar to how I rule like a broadsword working in D&D. You can move up to your speed as part of the attack without provoking attacks of opportunity to kind of reflect that it always goes first, because that's kind of hard to do. If you attack a target from behind, you may add an additional die of damage to this attack. Now, there are situations that I have not foreseen where you may not want to add that additional damage. Figured I'd put it in there just in case. Swords Dance. Gain a +1 to attack and damage rolls for a minute. You can stack it up to 3 times. Easy enough. And Metal Sound. Similar to how Titania functions right now. All hostile creatures within 10 feet of you that can hear you must succeed a relatively easy charisma save, DC 10, or suffer a -1 to all attack rolls, ability checks, and saving throws for a minute, but the effect cannot stack. Up to you if you want to throw if you save, you're immune to this effect for 24 hours. I tend to find that redundant, and have in recent days kind of just taken that rules lawyering out of my abilities, because that's not as fun. We've got Strength and Dex sitting at a healthy 13, Constitution at a 9. Usually Steel types push that up, but the HP stat of Honedge is very low, so I actually at 9 I'm kind of rounding up. Intelligence of 7, Wisdom of 8, Charisma of 8, and a hover speed of 30 feet. Moving into Doublade real quick. The only thing that changes on the moves is the bonus to hit and the damage dice, and we increment Swords Dance and Metal Sound. Those just go to 2. HP to 93, AC goes up to 11, Strength and Dex go to 16, Con to 12, Intelligence to 9, Wisdom and Charisma to 10, Hover Speed stays the same. Again, Doublade's kind of that interim phase, but it takes a long time in game for you to actually get from Honedge to Doublade, so you want it to feel like a nice jump, but we don't want to take away from the real meat and potatoes, which is Aegislash. So let's jump on down there. Your ability changes from no guard to stance change. So I'm going to cover that a little bit. I wrote it into Sacred Sword and King's Shield, the 2 signature moves, sort of, on here. But let's talk about it. Stance change. Well, in shield form, add a +5 to your AC and your next attack deals 1 less die of damage. I would just say slightly less damage coming out of shield form. When you're in sword form, your AC returns to normal and your attacks deal an additional die of damage. So you've got Sacred Sword, very high bonus to hit. Unless you're in shield form. So I have it at 9 in sword form, 4 in shield form. Trading off +5 AC or +5 to hit. Deals 3d10 fighting damage. The attack's damage cannot be reduced or resisted by typings or abilities. Immunity still applies. If you handle fighting damage like that. King's Shield. As an action, enter the shield form until you take any hostile actions. The first attack you make from here deals 1 less die of damage, but that gives you plus 5 to your AC, and you deal less damage. So that would put you I would put you at a static 12 AC in sword form, up to 17 in shield. Iron defense and swords dance. I have iron defense overtake metal sound, and swords dance stays the same, but I would allow you to stack that 3 times, then when you go to shield form, it becomes iron defense. So when you are in sword form, you have access to swords dance. When you're in shield form, you have access to iron defense, allowing you to keep up that shield form. Now when you're in shield form and you use iron defense, your AC would go up to 19, aka a +2, which in the new rulings that I would have is exceptionally difficult to hit. Now 19 is difficult on its own. I did avoid the rules text on King's Shield of dropping the attack of anything that hits you, because this is already going to be a very formidable opponent to run up against. As this is a stone evo, your HP mileage may vary. I put it at a nice healthy 125. AC would go from 12 to 17 in shield form. Strength and Dex start at 10 in shield form, jump to 20 in sword, representing that +5 bonus to hit, which is a step down from Dewblade, but is also an incredible step up. Constitution stays at a 12 because the HP stat doesn't change. Intelligence in shield form bumps to 18, allowing for potentially learning a move like Shadow Ball, which is pretty typical of Aegislash as far as I'm told. And your special defense in sword form actually goes pretty high, aka your wisdom goes up to 18, but stays at a 10 in shield form. And again, you might rule that differently. I keep the charisma at a 10 because Aegislash, while an intimidating foe, is not like intimidating in its own right. It's not like a Tyrantrum coming at you. And same deal, keep that 30-foot hover speed. But that's gonna do it for this one. A little bit of a frantic, manic lab episode, because there's a little puppy running around the house causing mayhem. But hopefully this answers your questions. I'm very curious how you guys would create an Aegislash, or that entire line for that matter. Because this was just a first pass at Aegislash. Already looking at it, there's a few things I would do differently, but this is just what I could drum up in, 10-15 minutes of design work. But hopefully that answered all your questions about the hiatus as well. Hopefully that came across relatively clear. Happy to keep answering questions. I will keep you guys in the loop, I promise. We will keep as much content flowing to you as we can in the interim period and once we start back up. But the end goal is what it has always been, is to have a fun game with my friends that you guys can enjoy alongside us. So hopefully we get back to that in some degree of normalcy. If I had to throw a date out there, and I don't, and I can't promise this will be accurate, it won't be later than July, but I don't think we'll see it before June. That's my window. I think sometime in June we should be up to speed, barring, of course, any continual surprise illnesses that kind of knock you out for a couple days. So, all of that rambling to say, I love y'all very much. Again, feel free to keep dropping comments down below with your questions and design questions. Anything like that, anything I can answer, I'm happy to talk about with you guys. But until next time, bye-bye!